Well, vaccine mandates have been a hot topic, and there's one update on these vaccine mandates that has been pretty much overlooked by the media. And joining us now is CBN senior reporter Dale Hurd to talk about it. Dale, what is this angle that everybody's missing from OSHA?
Well, as part of the court order a few days ago, when the appeals court bounced this mandate, it said that, you're to suspend it. And OSHA did, but the media didn't care. It wasn't really picked up. I saw it being reported by a COVID skeptic named Alex Berenson, a former New York Times science reporter, and he was saying the media is ignoring this. So, yeah, I don't know if it's incompetence or if it's part of this kind of media campaign to play down the bad news. I don't know.
And what is OSHA's what was the backtrack here? Give me a bit on the details of just kind of what are they backtracking on exactly?
Yeah, the mandate's suspended. And what this could go on for a while because often a plaintiff will apply for an emergency plea to the Supreme Court. I'm not seeing that. And I wonder if that's the appeals court said this mandate was awful. They called it a sledgehammer. They called it a misuse of that particular instrument in OSHA. It's an emergency thing. It took them 2 months to get it into action, and the court said, "What kind of emergency is that? It's too broad." And the court didn't really even get into the constitutional First Amendment kind of and freedom of religion angles that it said this law would run into when it hit the Supreme Court.
Yeah, so the suspension of this, I would imagine there was going to be a time frame in which businesses needed to prepare for this. Where does that leave businesses right now who have 100 employees or more and who are trying to figure out what the next step is?
I guess if I was a part of that business, I would continue to get ready for this so you're not caught flat-footed. But I think you're going to have plenty of warning because this is not moving fast now. I think this could be dead until early next year. I'm only guessing. January 4th was the deadline. I imagine it will go past that because I'm not seeing any action from the White House. The White House hasn't actually said very much about this being rejected by the appeals court, except businesses should go ahead with it. So, yeah.
Was this? I mean, this seems to me to be a little bit of a strange, set of circumstances here. Did the Biden administration assume, from what we know, that this was not going to be a problem, that people were just going to do it and it wasn't going to be challenged?
Well, I don't know. Because to me, and this is just my opinion, there's so much virtue signaling wrapped up in this whole topic, the big topic of COVID, that the White House could have thought, well, this may not make it through the courts, but it's going to make us look really good because, it's a vaccine mandate, that's great, and people will love us for it. So I don't know if they ever expected it to pass muster. On the other hand, I don't really trust the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, I don't necessarily think the Supreme Court will reject the mandate because, as you know, the Maine case they upheld, Maine's requiring health workers to get it. And the court has had strange positions in the past, in my opinion, about vaccines. And it goes back to the Jacobson case in 1905.
And you had mentioned, Dale, someone that you had interviewed from Czechoslovakia who made this comparison to what's going on now to communism. Tell me about that.
Right. And it relates to the Jacobson case because the Jacobson ruling, which has sort of been the government's prevailing attitude toward vaccinations, is it's not a forced vaccination if you have a choice. And so in Jacobson, they said the court ruled if you don't get the vaccine, you can pay a fine. So it's not a forced vaccination. Well, what if it cost you your job? What if it cost you economic ruin? That, to someone I interviewed, sounds exactly like what they experienced in communism. Their family suffered a lot because they didn't toe the party line. It's Jaroslav Fleeter. He's a physicist and a cybersecurity expert at George Washington University. And when he saw this, he thought, no way am I going to take this vaccine because they're telling me to, because that's what the communists did.
And is it possible, Dale, that politically speaking, the White House has bitten off more than they could chew? Like they misread the room because but they've done this similarly, like with the eviction moratorium. That they knew this is probably not going to withstand court muster, but we're going to move forward with it anyway. What do you think that politically the ramification of these kinds of broad overreaches will mean?
I think it's already hurt the president's approval rating. It's hurt the Democrats. You see these polling that Americans are in favor of vaccine mandates, and I guess it's possible, but I don't think Americans generally now are in the mood for heavy-handed government moves like this. And I wonder sometimes if the White House wishes they had never issued this.
I was just going to ask about. I was going to ask about New York City, because when you look at, what you were saying before about having an option, right? If you have an option, you're not really being compelled. If you could test out, but in New York City, employees cannot test out. You basically have to choose between your job or getting the vaccine. So I'd be curious to know, do you think a case like that, if it were, and I know that the case has not been won at this point, it's they've lost in trying to challenge this, but if it made it to the court, would they potentially have a different position on that?
Yeah, I don't know. I know that the court it's pretty much been decided. Businesses can do what they want, and you're out of luck. But in that case, with a city government, I still think the court might side with the city and say, if you want to do this, people have the right to quit. Which to me, yeah, but it's financial ruin. Let me add a couple more things to this since the Jacobson case in 1905. I mean, we have the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. People are saying that this violates that. We have Roe versus Wade, which we have a conservative court, but Roe versus Wade brought in all kinds of almost created rights to privacy and to your own bodily autonomy not to be violated, and this kind of runs against that. So there are a lot of things in play now that really, I guess, do make it hard to determine how the court would rule.
Yeah, and all of this is happening, Dale, as you have been reporting on CBN over the past few months. What's happening abroad, and particularly Australia, New Zealand, and now Austria, which they just went even a step further than those other two. And they have now basically started doing spot checks here. And you're seeing footage of that now. That's officers going around a mall and just randomly picking out people and making sure they have their vaccine cards. If you're not vaccinated, you're not allowed to be going around and going out in public. It's a lockdown for the unvaccinated. So really wild stuff happening in Austria, of all places. But Dale, you've taken a look at Australia and what's going on there. And I would have to think, now, of course, this is speculation here, but the Biden administration must be emboldened a little bit when they see places like Australia doing things like, creating an app where they can text you and you've got to text back within 15 minutes or else they're sending officers your way. So, I mean, what's going on in Australia and what have you seen there?
It's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, it started a philosophical discussion in the country about how they began, which was as a prison colony. And I mentioned in my story that people are saying, it's not that we were the prisoners, it's that we were the prison guards, because that's how we're acting. And they're using police helicopters with night vision to look for people on roofs. I mean, let's remember, this is a very contagious variant of the flu. Okay, it's not the bubonic plague, and it's just been very interesting to see the overreaction by governments. And Australia has really damaged their reputation. I mean, Australians were not able to answer me when I asked if Australia was still a free country, because it kind of is an open question now.
And I think the big thing here is what happens next, right? This is COVID. This is one circumstance, but a lot of governments around the world, including our own, it's sort of an experiment right now to see what policies are going to be allowed, how far can they go? And it does raise questions in, I think, most people's minds of, what happens next time there's a crisis? And there will be another crisis. How do these rules then translate into those circumstances?
And the fellow that Jaroslav Fleeter, who fought communism, warned me, and he warned Americans, this is going to happen again because of how you reacted to this.
Mm.
Governments will always go for more when you give in on stuff like this. And, people have talked about now climate change lockdowns, things related to that, that is expanding to other areas. People really need to. People have minded their own business for too long, good people, and they are standing up, but they really need to take a stand. I think they are in a lot of these countries more than we're seeing, because I think there's media suppression in Europe of a lot of these really large demonstrations.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah.
A lot of demonstrations going on, and we're seeing that. When we look for it, you see it on social media and outlets that are not the mainstream outlets that don't seem to want to cover it. So, all right, I think we're going to leave it there, Dale. There's a lot going on with the mandates, and I appreciate you bringing us up to speed on it, and we'll continue to look forward for more reporting on this as it continues to unfold. Thanks for being here, Dale.
Thank you.